Okay, good morning. So we are not going to learn today Sefer Shoftim as well. We're going to do a class about Hanukah, the holiday that we are celebrating in this day. And I want to learn with you an article of Shem, as you already know that I'm fond of him and he has very nice ideas. So he has also some articles about Hanukkah. He used to speak every day in Hanukkah in his, I don't know, his community back then in the 19th century in Europe. So we have a lot of ideas about Hanukkah from him. And I'll start with something that we learned 2 days ago about halachic issue, about how many candles we light. So if you remember, we said that the original halacha or mitzvah was to light one candle a day for the whole house. And then the Gemara say that mehadrin, those who want to do more than the obligation, more than the minimum, they do each one of the members of the family light one candle. And then we have mehadrin mina mehadrin, which means those who want to do the best way, they had to add every day. So here we have two opinions, and that's what I want to speak about. According to Bet Shammai, you start in the first day with 8 candles, and then you go down by 1 each day. And Bet Hillel says that you start with 1 candle, and then you add each day a candle. Right? So we already said 2 days ago that there is a machloket if the third level is adding to the second level or is separate, meaning in the third level you have to do for each one of the members of the family in this way, add one every day, or only one Hanukah, one menorah in every house, but adding for each day, adding one. So there's a machloket about that, and there are 2 customs, and each custom is okay. But I want to speak not about the machloket, but about the machloket of Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel, not the machloket how do we do today exactly. So according to Bet Shammai, you start with 8 and go down. In the first day 8, in the second day 7, in the third day 6, etc. Until the last day we light, according to Bet Shammai, light 1 candle. According to Bet Hillel, and that's what we are doing today, you start with 1, and then the second day you add 1, and the third day you are doing 3, etc. So these are the 2 opinions. What is the reason for these 2 opinions? The Gemara gives several explanations. So one explanation is that according to Bet Shammai, we are doing in Hanukkah like the bulls of the holiday, of the festival. What does it mean? It means the bulls that we used to, they used to sacrifice in the holiday of Sukkot. What does it mean? In the holiday of Sukkot, there was a special sacrifice of bulls each day, and starting with 14, and then go down. Right? So each day they reduced one of the bulls that they sacrificed in Bet HaMikdash. So Bet Shammai says that the same as we used to do in Sukkot, that we are diminish the number of bulls every day, that's what we should do in Hanukkah. And according to Bet Hillel, the reason is which says the klal ma'alin b'kodesh lo morin. When you're talking about holiness, about mitzvot, you should always add. You should never diminish the mitzvot. You should try always to do better and better and better. So the opinion of Bet Shammai is quite clear. But what is the relationship? What it has to do? The idea of the bulls that used to sacrifice marim, that they used to sacrifice in the holiday of Sukkot, with the Hanukah of Hanukkah. Why it has to do? It's hard to understand the opinion of Bet Shammai. So Shem MiShmuel add another point to the question. How many bulls do we sacrifice in total, all the days of Sukkot? 70. Why? We start with 14 and diminish each day 1, and the total is 70. 70 is a symbolic number in Judaism. It's not only 7 Shabbat, also 70 has different meaning. Which is the meaning of 70? 70 nations, right? There are, according to the traditions, there are 70 nations. Today in the in the United Nations, there are, I think, around 160 or 170 different nations. But in the old times, there used to be 70 nations, and always when we have 70, or always when we have 70, it has to do something with that. So what we say usually, that in Sukkot, we want to sacrifice also for the good, for the well-being of all the nations. Sukkot is international holiday, festival, when we want to include also the other nations. And why do we go down? Because from the other side, we don't want the power to increase. We want to have them all in peace, but with a reduced power. So they are not disappearing. They are still with us, and we are sacrificed for them, and we want them good, but we are going down. So this is the reason for Sukkot. So what it has to do with Hanukah. Hanukah, for sure, we are not lighting candles for the nations. The opposite. We are lighting candles to remember how we won a war against one of the other nations, against the Greeks. By the way, it's important to remember that we are not talking about the Greeks of Greece. We are talking about the Greeks of Syria. It's interesting. I lived 1 year in Greece, in Athens. And there, the Jewish community don't say Yevanim. When they say the Jews, Malchut Yavan, we say in Al Nisim, that we say in the Tefillah, ושעמדה מלכות יוון הרשעה על עמך ישראל. They don't say מלכות יוון, they say מלכות סוריה, the kingdom of Syria. It says יוונים נקבצו עליי, סורים נקבצו עליי. It's historically it's true, and of course. So why do we call them Greeks? They came from Syria, because it was part of the big Greek kingdom. The big kingdom started in the days of Alexander the Great, and after that it was divided to 3 different kingdoms. One was in Egypt, the Ptolemaic kingdom, one was in Syria, and one was in Europe. But in between them, they fought sometimes, and sometimes they were in peace. But there were 3 different kingdoms. All of them, even though different places, had the same culture, the same religion, the same philosophy. So they are Greeks, but specifically, I mean, in the Greek culture, but specifically they lived in Syria. Anyway, the question is here, so you say that in Sukkot, we are going down with the number of sacrifice of the bulls, because we want to diminish or to reduce the power of the other nations against us, or let's say the negative parts of that are in the other nations. What it has to do with Hanukah. You're not doing the lights of Hanukah, the candles of Hanukah, in order to do something for the nations. So, in order to answer this question, which is a very, very famous question, many explanations and quotes and ideas about that, MiShmuel focused about the relationship with the Greek culture, and more exactly, or more accurate to say, how do we absorb this culture? Because we do absorb that. We do have relationship with this culture. Because if we go back, how the Torah or Judaism treat the Greek culture? The Greek culture is one of the most influenced and important cultures of humanity, and even today, Greece is not so important country, even not Syria, but the culture and the philosophy and all the things that the Greeks developed in their glory time is still very, very present in the modern culture, in the Occidental culture in the modern times. So it has a lot of importance. And actually, when we look on the Tanakh or in our history, our relationship with the culture started very well. It goes back to the first days of the world, in the times of Noach. If you remember the story in Parashat Noach, Noach got drunk in his tent after the Mabul, so the flood, and his 3rd son, Ham, saw him and called the brothers. He didn't treat him respectfully, but the 2 brothers, Shem and Yefet, covered him. He was naked, so they covered him and respected him. And after that, Noah cursed Ham, and he blessed Shem and Yefet, the other two sons. Shem, as you may know, we come from Shem. That's where the word anti-Semite, how do you say? Anti-Semite come from anti-Shem. Right? Anti is the sons of Shem. It's interesting because also the Arabs came from Shem, but it's became like a word to say hate of Jew hates. But originally it means the hate against the descendants of Shem, which are us. We came from Shem. And according to the tradition, again, historically, I'm not sure how it goes, but in the idea that Greeks came from Yefet. One of the sons of Yefet, in the end, it's come to the Greeks nation, and we can say also all the Occidental nations come from that. And when Noah blessed Shem and Yefet, it says, Yaft Elokim leyefet veishkon beholech. So he speaks about he blessing the beauty of Yefet, and it says that this beauty should be in the tent of Shem. Meaning there should be a relationship between beauty of the culture of the Greeks, that are the main nation or the leader nation in this type of culture, inside Judaism, inside the tents of Shem we should enjoy and use and learn and take from the beauty of Yefet, from the beauty of the Greeks. There's something very beautiful about Greek culture, about the Greeks, right? That we should adapt, and we should take from them this beauty, and it should stay in our tents. In our tents, you said tents, the Bet Midrash, the Talmud Torah, etc., or our culture, or our spirit should take something from them. And if we go on in the history, there is another legend about the first encounter between Judaism and the Greek culture that is related to Alexander the Great and Shimon HaTzadik. Historically, it's not very clear which Shimon we speak about, if even possible meeting, but we know that Alexander the Great had some wars in the zone of the Middle East, including Eretz Israel. And so the story talks about people from Eretz Israel that came to Alexander Magno, the Great, and spoke against Am Israel. So he went to fight against Am Israel, against the Jews in the land of Israel. They didn't have independence in this time. They were under the Persian government. Anyway, Shimon HaTzadik went to him, and they met in the way. And when Alexander the Great saw him, he went down from his horse and kneeled in front of him. And he said that every time before he had a battle, he sees the image of Shimon HaTzadik. He sees this person that came to him, and then he wins. If I'm not mistaken, Alexander the Great never lost a battle. If I'm not sure about this data, but I'm not sure. So he said that each time I have a war, I see the night before, and I know that I'm going to win. And then after that, they spoke, and Shimon HaTzadik said that each person each baby that's going to go to burn in this year, in the Jewish nation, is going to call Alexander. There were a lot of Alexander in this generation, like we have today. I went once to a school of Hasidut Breslev. So half of the children there are Nachman. Everybody goes, and the other half are Natan, because there were two rabbis for Breslev, Rabbi Nachman in Breslev and his student Rabbi Natan. So it was like that. Everybody was called Alexander. So this story should be analyzed, and there are some ideas inside it. What you can see is that the first encounter was positive. They saw something in common. There are something in common between the culture of the Greeks and Jewish culture, and they had a relationship. After that, it went wrong. Many years after that, several generations after that, around I think 160 years later, there was Antiochus IV, the king of Syria, who had a lot of wars with the Ptolemaic kingdom. And in the middle, for some reason, he decided to do some decrees against Judaism, which was something not common in the Greek culture, because the Greek culture was very tolerant and they were very adaptive to other kinds of religions. Actually, the word Hellenism that we used to relate to the Greeks is the special version of Greek culture related to the Middle East and the East generally. And they combine different aspects of the same, of the two different cultures, and they did it like a new religion, some kind of a mixed, eclectic, you say, eclectic, right? Religion that borrows different elements from different places. And so it's not very clear why he started to fight against Judaism. What was bothering him in Judaism that didn't bother him in other religions that were, yeah, Antiochus IV. Yeah, that's the famous Antiochus that we hate every year. This was the fourth because it was before him and after him. Anyway, that what started all the story of the war, etc. So I'm not going to speak now about what caused Antiochus to start this against the Jews. We're talking about, in this case, I want to follow what Shem MiShmuel says about this battle. So he says, "Venire, v'hine koach hayevanim u'chochma." The power of the Greeks is a wisdom, or what we call today philosophy and science. And that was what was developed in Athens, in Greek generally, in this generation. After that was spread to the whole world. So is it a bad thing? Of course not. Wisdom is a good thing. כמו שכתב המהר"ל, בעצם היא טובה. זה חוכמה is a good thing. ואפילו חוכמות חיצוניות, and even חוכמות, wisdom or science that is not related to the Torah. It's called חוכמות חיצוניות, exterior. The interior wisdom is a divine wisdom. The wisdom of understanding what is God and his relationship to his word, and mainly it's the religious wisdom. But chokhmot chitzoniot, the exterior chokhmot wisdom, is science and philosophy and learn about the world. So he says, even chokhmot chitzoniot, yesh bahen tzorech laolam, there is a need in this kind of wisdom, ve'afilu laTorah yesh bahen tzorech. And even to learn Torah, you need to know a lot of the other science or wisdoms. I want to give an example. There are many laws, for example, you need math. And there are a lot of things that you have to understand in order to answer questions. And I mean, there are all kinds of wisdom. Actually, Rambam says that without learning the other wisdom, you cannot understand the Torah. And all the other kinds of wisdom are, it's called it rakachot ve'ofot, meaning like the bakers, like the ones who help to the one who learn Torah. So without learning all the other kinds of halachot, you cannot learn Torah properly. So there is an importance in these kinds of wisdom, and the Greeks contributed a lot to that. כמו שכתוב על הרמב"ם, like it says about Rambam, that learned all kind of exterior wisdoms in order to be helpful or to be a tool to learn the Torah. But what was the problem of the Yevanim? So here he defines it as gasut ruach. Gasut ruach we can translate as arrogance or pride. What does it? I mean, arrogance is pride. It's close word, right? It's the same idea. What is the problem is that, and then explain. כמו שכתב הרמב"ן, like Nachmanides wrote, שחשב הוא Aristo, so the big Greek culture representative in the Middle Age, and finally Aristoteles. So Aristoteles and his students thought שכל מה שאינו משיג בשכלו איננו אמת. That everything that we cannot understand with our intelligence, it's not true. So what does it mean, arrogance? Arrogance is, okay, you are developing the wisdom, the intelligence, word, understanding the word, etc. And then you arrive to a moment when you think that your mind, your brain can understand everything. And is the only criteria for the truth and for the right and for the just is your own understanding. By that, you are eliminating any kind of divine morality, of divine wisdom.
Rabbi, Aristotle was Alexander the Great's teacher.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, Alexander himself was a warrior, a Muslim philosopher. He learned from Aristoteles. So Aristoteles himself, I don't know if he was a good person, bad person. We are talking now about his philosophy and what is developed in the set of mind of the Greeks, of this culture. It's still a problem till today. When we say that the only tool to understand the reality and to judge between good and bad is our own brain, our own understanding, we are canceling all kind of divine guidance and all kind of divine wisdom. And that was the choke, the conflict between Judaism and Greek. It's not about the importance of the wisdom itself. It's about the question if our own understanding and wisdom is the only thing that matters. And this is what you call here arrogance and pride. The pride of thinking that humanity or human being is more more important and more clever than anything else that exists, including God. Again, I'm not going to now speak about the religion, the Greek religion, because they had a religion also. But at least in the time of the philosopher, it already had much less importance. It was like folklore or something like that, less committed. They were less committed to that. Anyway, so he says the wisdom of the Greek itself is good and positive, and it contributes to Am Israel. The klipa meaning the shell, the bad things that about the fruit, right? It's again the Kabbalistic term that means there is a good thing, this is the fruit, but it's covered with klipa, with a shell. And this prevent you from arriving to the good thing. So you have to break the klipot, break the shells in order to enjoy the fruit. Okay, so this is the fight of the Greeks. Its purpose is to break the shell of pride and arrogance and to enjoy the wisdom. That's the idea of that. And when we light candles, what we are doing is that exactly. We are trying to break the shells in order to enjoy the wisdom. So the light represents wisdom, and we can say human wisdom, but also divine wisdom. And this is a combination that we should try to develop. And then he says, so the need is only to break the shells of the arrogance and pride and chutzpah that they brought to the world, and then we will be left only with the good wisdom. And then when we have the light of the Torah, and everything is getting better from his root, nimtak beshorsho. And then the question is how to do that. And that is a machloket between Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel. So he gives you two explanations about how this machloket, this agreement between Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel is related to that. I will skip the first one. I will see only the second one. So what's the advice? How should we overcome this human tendency that our brain is the most important thing and the most powerful tool that exists in the world that can overcome any kind of divine morality or divine guidance. So he says there are two advices for that. One advice is to see how small you are. Are we really so smart? Are we really so wise? We still don't understand almost anything about reality. Yeah, we made a lot of advance since old times, but there are so many times we cannot understand and we cannot explain. And if we're talking about humanity in general, so yeah, we have some people that are very genius, but look at most of the people, how I don't want to say stupid, but no wise are they? And ourselves, how hard is to understand for us, even the material of sixth grade math. I mean, each one of his weaknesses. So we are very small. We are very useless. After 70, 80 years, we are going away. 90 years, I know. Catch me in the world. Yeah. And everything can make us sick, and everything can make us not concentrated. We are so small. How can we be arrogant? We must understand that our capacity, our ability to do things, is very limited. So this is one kind of thought that brings you to be modest and not let the arrogant take over you. So that he says there are two kinds of advice. The first is to see how small he is. Where did you come from? Where are you going? And also our wisdom, how weak is it? How many mistakes that we used to, we also, I mean, personally, also generally, I mean, until we arrive to know something, how many wrong theories are in the way until we got to something that even all the theories that we have today about the world may be found as wrong the day of tomorrow, right? It's always developed, but it's developed through showing us that the former understanding is wrong. Okay, and then what he thinks today as the clear things, tomorrow there's someone else that come and shows that it's a mistake, or he himself can find mistake, etc. And he should look on it more and more, and then he should keep himself modest. This is the first advice. The second advice, how to keep modest, is not looking on the weaknesses of yourself, but look at the greatness of Hashem. How great is Hashem? Also think always about the world, the reality that He created, and the endless wisdom of Hashem in the creation and in the world. And you're looking on the sky and on the nature, on the stars, on the sun, on the moon. All of that makes you modest in front of Hashem. That's what he says. And the second advice is to look on the greatness of Hashem and his incredible actions and deeds. Like David HaMelech said in Tehillim, Kireh Shamecha, when I look on your sky, on your heaven, the actions of your fingers, the moon and the stars that you established, and I see myself, my Enoshkit Yizkerenu, so the man is so small related to that. And like Rambam said, that when he thinks these kind of things, he is feel himself with reverence in front of God, Yirat Hashem. So this is the second advice. What is better, to see how weak we are or how small we are, or to see how big is Hashem? So he says that actually that is Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel. Bet Shammai says you go from the 8, or maybe I should add something else. He said before that, he says something else. The first advice is very dangerous, meaning think about how small we are can make us also feel or understand that we are useless. And if we are useless, we shouldn't make any effort, and we shouldn't work, and we lose all the enthusiasm and the energy to create and to live in this world. So we can use that, we should use this, but with be very caution about that. Not let it take out our energy and our spirit in order to come and walk in the world and develop the world and make a progress. But the second advice, he said, you don't need any kind of caution. As much as you think about Hashem, it's better. I mean, the more you think about His greatness and the beauty of the nature and the wisdom of what's happening in this world, all the science, and that even through the science, while you learn more science, you more understand the beauty of the creation. So this, you don't need any kind of a guide, of shmirah, this is shmirah, to keep yourself from anything bad. So this is Bet Shammai. Bet Shammai goes, they are also more strict. They are the harder. In between Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel, Bet Shammai always more strict, and Bet Hillel almost always more lenient, right? Did I say lenient? Lenient, yes. So Bet Shammai, and if you remember the story that someone wanted to convert it, he came to Bet Shammai and he threw him away, while Hillel took him and made the conversion. So we can see that Bet Shammai are more strict, and the way in living in this world is to fight against. So in this case, the fight against the arrogance that should break the shell in order to rise to the wisdom is by looking on our weaknesses. And that's the reason it goes down. Why it goes down? Again, to not give it so much power. Finally, we should, while you more overcome the arrogance, you can lower the level of, when you lower the level of, when you keep yourself, the defense, lower the defense, right? Lower the defense, and in the end, you can only enjoy the wisdom without fighting so much against the bad. While Bet Hillel says you should focus on the positive, you should focus on the greatness of Hashem, and then do that more and more and increase the amount of this kind of energy, and then that's the reason we go from 1 to 8. So this is one explanation. To explain this this machloket. And again, maybe the most important thing that we should learn always, it's general, it's about the Greeks, Greek culture, but generally, we should also always look for how we can enjoy and learn and get from other cultures without the negative parts that come with it. If we should do that by learning more Torah, or by understanding the weaknesses of the other cultures and try to avoid them. But finally, the purpose in this case is not to eliminate everything else, but to try to find a way to cooperate and live together. Chag Sameach, Hanukah Sameach. Thank you.